Hey guys, just going to share a game with you. This one's an absolute beauty. I've been playing like an utter dumbass most of the day. I think prior to this I've won one game today. It's about 3 or 4 losses and a draw, all of which I was kind of leading and just threw away. Madness. Anyway, this one is a thing of elegance and delight. So we have the French defense. Okay, this is what I'm playing. It's a serious game. I want to play my best. Normal French opening. Okay. So this really ends up in one of those things where you really have to calculate. Okay. And now this is the Tarash with knight to d2. This is very typical at higher levels. Looks a bit kind of funky, clunky. So I continue with c5, and we have c3. So now the d4 pawn is defended by another wing pawn. So I think the general idea here with the French is that you maybe turn your attention away from that. But I guess it's only defended once right now. Yeah, so you could add a knight to attack it. You could add the queen b6 to attack it. That's also an idea. I here play knight to f6, and I'm trying to kind of entice the pawn forward to e5, which indeed comes, and then you play your knight to d7. Okay, so now at some point I'm going to shift my attention to this pawn as being my main target rather than this guy on d4. Okay, I have knight f3, knight c6. It's all fairly normal. This knight now comes round to b3, looking at this pawn, which is defended currently only by the bishop. So I push b6 and defend again. Bishop now attacks this knight, which is undefended. So I'm on my toes in this game. You know, I'm spotting undefended pieces and everything. Okay, so I move the knight. I move the knight out of the way. I'm thinking that, so this is the knight that's come from here. So we've got kind of a knot of knights going on right now. And now we have 2 attackers on this pawn, but 2 defenders. But this guy is a defender, but he's pinned. So he's not a defender, is he, at all? So that was a bit of an error. So, I mean, what could I have done here? I guess moving this guy out of the way left this knight pinned, right? Whereas it wasn't previously. So another idea could have been bishop b7, then if takes, recapture with the bishop. Yeah? And if pawn takes, just takes. That's fine. But here, I've not only left this guy pinned, but I've also been blocked off, if you notice, this bishop's defense of that pawn. So I didn't think that one through, did I? No. No. Okay. So anyway, I hit a6, hit the bishop. I'm angry. Bishop, be gone. So clearly the bishop can't retreat to a4, because then b5 will pin it and win it. So the bishop's going to have to clear off in this direction, and off he clears. And now I grab the pawn back, okay? Because now, with the bishop having kindly vacated the b5 square, my knight is no longer pinned. Therefore, my knight is now once again a defender of the pawn. So it turned out that what I did was extremely clever after all. Okay, now I continue fiddling with my knights, doing all right cat's cradle with these knights, and this guy now comes back. So I think this is the guy that came from here, so he's now ending up on g6. Okay, but we've got 2 attackers on this pawn now. White now castles, and probably what I should have done is just grab the pawn, but I missed the fact that the pawn was there, and I decided to develop my bishop to e7 instead. Just completely passed me by, that one. But look at the, I do like this kind of pawn structure, this dominance I've got in the middle. And where are White's pawns? He's got this guy out on his own in no man's land, and everyone else is just lingering at the sides of the board. So I'm liking this position. Now White plays rook to e1. White, by the way, is 1500 rated. This is not bad, not a bad thing. Actually 1510 at the start of the game. So he now brings his rook across to e1 to add a second defender to this pawn. So the window of opportunity to capture the pawn slams shut. We have bishop to d2. Odd move, this one. This is one of those moves where you have to go can I think of a reason why my opponent just played this move? And I'm a little bit baffled about this one. I mean, it's defending the rook. It's adding a second defender to that pawn. But it's in the way of the queen. It's an odd one. This is just an odd one. Or maybe he just wanted to get it off the back rank and there was nowhere good to put it. Can't go there because of my knight. Can't go there because of my bishop. Can't go there. So maybe it was just a choice between these two squares, you know? Maybe. Sometimes the answer is there is no answer. But it's always good, and I do really try to encourage when I give lessons to say, look, come up with an idea for why your opponent played that move, even if it's a stupid idea, or even if the answer is, I don't know. Maybe he's run out of options. Maybe he's just doing it for the sake of it. Don't know. Now, one thing, a lot of people would be tempted here to play c4, right? But that simply just hands this square to this knight. And we don't want that precious, do we? No, my love. We don't want the knight in there. So this pawn's actually doing a good job right now, kind of defending these squares. But particularly d4. We don't want the knight going in there. Okay, so I'm just holding this pawn back. Yeah, defended by the bishop, defended by the knight, defended by the queen. It's very solid there. There's no reason to start pushing pawns unnecessarily and creating gaps behind your lines, right? That's a sign of maybe the first signs of some maturity in my chess. Okay, bishop flies out to g5. It's attacking my dark squared bishop. We could trade off. This would bring the knight out to here. Do I need this dark squared bishop? Is it a good piece? Is white's dark squared bishop a good piece? I don't really know. I don't think either of them are magnificent. So we trade off bishops, okay? And now I grab the pawn, because now I have queen and knight from here, and knight here, all looking at the pawn. And white now retreats his knight to c1. It's another head scratcher. But maybe the idea is to bring the knight round to here. Don't know. But again, liking my pawns here, liking my central control. This is all good. Okay, so now we have f6. Now, I did think about this. You know, I am hesitant to push pawns in front of my king, but then look, I've got this lovely step of pawns going on. You know, I've got this idea of, can I just creep up the board and squash my opponent against the wall, you know? But I'd like to get this knight. He's in my half of the board. It's like, get out my half of the board. Knight. So off he clears to f3. This pawn, of course, was defended by the bishop. And now it gets exciting very soon, guys. Don't worry about this. I mean, really, like, excited. So bishop e7 now. I want to connect my rooks. Yeah, so this is called completing development on move 18. We've done some messing around. And I figure line the bishop up with g2 square in front of the king. No bad thing. Line it up with this knight. Means the queen really needs to stay defending the knight. Otherwise, the only defender is that pawn. Don't want to move. This is just generally improving the bishop's position in life. Okay, now we have knight to d3, which is the move that we anticipated earlier on, and I simply trade off knights. Okay, so I'm a pawn up at this point, and I've got a very dominant pawn center, right? You see, white has no pawns on the d file or the e file, right? And I've got 6 and a 1 here. The only pawn I'm missing is my b pawn, right? So I do have this lovely central control. The obvious thing here might be e5, e4 with a fork on these two guys. That would be really cool if we can get that. But I don't think my opponent at 1500 is going to fall for that one. So now I push c4, right? Now there's no knight. Well, I mean, there is a knight here to jump on into that square, but I'm not too concerned because now I have e5, right? So now it's time to start the crush. And now my opponent sees something kind of clever, okay? So I'm attacking the bishop, but nobody's defending the pawn on e6. Okay, why didn't I defend the pawn on e6? The pawn on e6 is undefended, everybody, right? I could have pushed e5. Probably a better move, you think? Push e5, threatening to push e4, forcing my opponent. My opponent then has to react to what I'm doing. That would have probably been better. Although it would have, opened up some light squares towards my king. But then, king, he can just slide across to h8, stick himself on a dark square. Light as pipe. Enjoy the rest of the show. But I do that, okay? And now we have a trade. So bishop takes knight, h takes g6, and now the rook, and I've lost. Not only have I lost my pawn advantage now, again, but he's broken my lovely, lovely central pawn structure. Curse you, white. There's Ilya Saltskul from Russia. Okay, so now, I think, right, that open file, that's mine, that is. Yeah? That open file, all of this is guarded by my queen, bishop's guarding that. I slide my rook across, rook a to e8, and now that rook's going to have to retreat, I think, in order to swap itself off, but no. White now plops his knight. You remember earlier on I pushed c4 when maybe it wasn't the best move, or maybe it wasn't the best move. Because now look what's happened. He's put his blooming knight in the middle of the board. This is the centre of the board. Knights love to be there. Controlling a lot of good squares. And now he's defending his rook. Alright. Now, if I was to take the rook, the knight would take back, and it would be a fork on my queen and my rook. So we can't have that, can we? So, king f7. I kind of like this move for a couple of reasons. One is, it frees up this idea, right? And look, queenie, looking down on h2. So there's a threat there, yeah? The other thing is, takes, king takes. You've just lost a piece. Too bad, right? And this is where it gets really, really hairy and interesting. So, white plays queen g4. Now, what do you do? Still, now, if rook takes, knight takes rook, fork on queen and rook, king can't recapture because it's defended by a queen. Okay. Alright, how about the idea of f5? No, f5 would be a mistake. Queen takes g6, okay? And the queen and rook are connected, and that would be checkity mate. Do not want this, okay? So, what do we do? Boom. White has opened himself up to a pin. Pin, lower value piece is in front of a higher value piece, both in line by the same long, well, not maybe that line, but a nearby line, okay, by a long range piece. Rooks, queens, bishops can pin. So, you are white. What can you do? Okay, so if you want to, press pause and figure out what you would do in this situation to try and rescue the situation. Okay? Well, I'll show you what white came up with. Rook A to e1. Okay, so now, check this out. If bishop takes rook, okay, knight takes bishop, rook takes knight, queen takes rook, checkity mate, all over again. Ouch, that hurts. Okay, so I had to sit, and so he took 3.5 minutes over that, but 3.5 minutes very well spent. 20-minute rapid game, got 10 minutes on the clock now. He had 12 minutes or so, 13 minutes on the clock. Exactly what he should be doing. And this is that's why the guy's 1500 rated, right? And that's why, I'm not. If I'm not willing to put in the work and the brain power to spend 3.5 minutes coming up with probably the best move. I don't know if it is the best move, not analyse the game, it's alright. Okay, yeah, still ideas of pushing the pawn doesn't work. It's checkmate straight away. So I have to figure this out. Can I capture the rook? Can I capture the rook? Yeah. If I take the rook with the bishop and the knight recaptures, what do we do? Then the knight is attacking my queen and my rook. Okay? But I come up with a solution to this. I think this is solvable. And all the clues are there. This is what's so beautiful about it. If you like puzzles, if you like detective stories, I love Sherlock Holmes, right? I adore Sherlock Holmes, because the great thing about Sherlock Holmes is the way that Sherlock Holmes deduces the answers, the solutions to these problems, is simply by looking at what's there. Okay? And all the information is there in chess. It's very simple. 64 squares. There's not that much going on, right? All the information you need to solve the problem is there in front of you. You just have to put in the effort to solve it. Okay, so here's what I came up with. Bishop takes rook. Okay, not rocket science so far. Knight takes bishop. Okay, now, there's two very, very important things here. One is, this queen is undefended. Okay, very important. Well, of course, my queen's undefended also. Okay, the other thing is, that rook is undefended. And also, if rook should take rook, guess what? Checkmate. Game over. Thank you for playing. Good night. Right? So, this game actually goes on for several more minutes, but not several more moves. Okay, so now, of course, what I do not do is rook takes knight, queen takes rook, checkmate. That would be unpleasant. We don't do that. My move is queen d7. Somehow I've found some chess mojo going on, right? So now the knight is pinned against the queen. If the knight moves anywhere, unless it comes with check, I win the queen, I win the game. Now, but the king and the knight are in this arrangement, right? Immediately adjacent on a diagonal. That means there are two squares. That one that comes with check, and that one that comes with check, right? So the knight can come to either of these two squares, but if the knight comes here, I just grab with queen. It's no problem, right? Knight comes here, I grab with pawn. I don't see a problem. I'm a rook up. I should be able to defend my position from that point. In fact, yeah, okay. However, what I fail to realise is, oh no, right? Knight comes here with check. Yes, I can grab the knight, but no, I can't, because guess what? Queen takes queen, check. King has to move, and it's all gone Pete Tong, right? Yeah, if I grab that knight, that queen's going to grab my queen with check. I've only really got, well, I can't block with a rook, I've got to go there, and then we're going to have rook takes e8, and I've lost. Oh no. What do we do? Well, and of course I can't capture the queen because I'm in check. Oh no, what a miscalculation, what a terrible miscalculation. So, king g8, but this is what I realise, okay? Queen can't take my queen. She's there, she's hanging, right? There for the taking, but if queen takes queen, rook takes rook is mate, right? So, what a nail biter. This is one of those Tarantino endings, right? Look at white's position. Pawn's attacking this knight, queen's attacking this queen, rook's attacking this rook, rook's attacking that rook, queen's attacking that queen. So everything's attacked. It's like the only pieces that aren't being attacked are my king and my rook on f8. It's like one of those endings where everyone's pointing guns at each other, right? Wow, proper Tarantino moment. Okay, so we have rook takes e8. I grab white's queen, and now I am simply threatening queen to d1, checkmate. Well, rook could block and whatever. Rook takes f8, king takes f8, and then white here resigns. But wow, what a position. that we got at the end of that. And, you know, I have to say, I'm really, really pleased with myself that, and the reason is not because it's like, oh, didn't I do well? The reason is because I know that I can calculate my way through some of those positions. But even so, I missed this one, right? I missed that knight g5 with check was a discovered attack against my undefended queen. But still, there was a way out because of this back rank problem. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it's great when you have a bad morning at chess, and then, you know, you have a good game and you beat somebody, 85 points higher rated than you. But lovely game, very, very satisfying win. I'm just happy to be able to share a win with you guys, really. So thank you for watching. Really nice one. Really nice one. Please subscribe to Chess Bootcamp if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you soon.